Hey guys, let's talk about money transfer businesses from a Nigerian prince. I want to talk about money transfer business and what went wrong with those businesses, how they failed or how they're failing slowly, and what's going to replace them. Guys, do you remember money? Yeah, there was MoneyGram and there was Western Union, right? Those were the two top dogs across money transfer businesses then. And it's funny to remember that those guys actually control the entire market, literally the entire market. You had Western Union, you had to pick two: Western Union or money transfer, or Western Union or MoneyGram. And those two, right? The structure was basically they charge a commission of 5 to 10%, right, percent, if no more, sometimes 15%. What happened then is they had integration points where they had agents, right? They had people that just stand across, okay, that they pay, and they pay commission to those people. That's why it was that high. So they pay commission and then they pay you cash, or you pay cash in or card or debit or anything. You pay it in or bank transfer as well online. You pay it in there, and then what happened then is you can go ahead and actually send it back home across a corridor. The corridor is basically two countries. So you send it from one country to the other. You couldn't send it across the world from here to, I don't know, you couldn't send, for instance, you couldn't send hardly. Could you send money from Nigeria, for instance, to Ghana? You had to go through a corridor. A corridor means you're going from Nigeria to the USA, then from the USA back to you to Ghana, which is crazy to think about, but that's what the dollar is. The dollar is very strong, and it's one of those currencies that, just stays in between. Because I hope you don't mind my cup. It's really cool. That's a lovely. I got into these recently with my daughters. They have these really cool cups. I got this myself for my customers to entertain you. I said, who am I? Sorry, yeah, I'm the CEO of Oruka. Oruka is a smart payment ring that allows you tap to pay. So basically, I'm wearing my bank, I'm wearing my wallet, and wearing my business. So this is a business ring as well. It's a POS terminal. You can basically tap. If you're a restaurant owner, you can just tap to get payments with our rings. So check it out, oruka.com, orukabusiness.com. And we have bracelets as well. Yeah, so everything I'm wearing here is actually business. Even though it looks pretty, you can be pretty as well. Just order this oruka.com. But what I want to talk about basically is money transfer business and how it evolved over time. Okay. And so we talked about Western Union and basically how the business structure was, right? And the structure was simple. You go in, you register as a business. They still have it today. You register as a business, you go in, they charge. The agent takes about 2 to 3%, which is a lot. And compare that to then all the offices that they have to have, all the locations, all the liquidity. Liquidity means all the cash they have to sit on so that when you transfer money, they can go ahead and pay you the money on the other side. Yeah. So if you want to send money from here to, I don't know, India, you need to have Indian rupees and you need to have, it depends on what country you're in. If you're in the USA, you need to have dollars and Indian rupees. So that if someone sends money in dollars, you receive the dollars and then you pay the person in Indian rupees back home. So it still is a very good business, okay? In terms of numbers, right? We're looking at roughly about $860 billion with a B. That's almost $1 trillion that's being sent across the board. So we'll call it remittance business. So remittance business is a lot. It's a growing business. And then if you look at the countries where, people are sending money home from, it's mostly, again, you can always guess this, right? Who's sending money home? Mostly the guys in the USA, funny enough, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Europe, number 4. And then you go into other countries, really small, Scandinavian countries. But if you look at that, right, so that means a lot of these people are sending money home. And who's sending the money home, right? So it's not, again, if you go to the US, the guys in the US, hardly do they send money to anywhere else. It's mostly Africans, right? Mostly Asians there that are sending money back home. So about 75%, believe it or not, 75% of people who send money are actually low income earners. So cleaners, drivers, Uber drivers, people like that, sending money back home. So it's not lucrative in terms of the numbers or the volume, yeah, but it's actually more around the, what do you call it, the numbers, sheer volumes, right? Because again, if you look at the top 1% are always the richest, and then the rest is 99%. Of that 99%, you have 75% sending money home, which is a lot of volume and transaction. So clearly, obviously, you know yourself what would happen. So if MoneyGram, was so good at this and people saw the margins that was coming in, especially when they went online. So when they were in person, right, it was tough to do it, right? Because you go in, you have to have an agent, you have to have an agent here, you have to have an agent there. But when things went online, we talk about the internet bubble, right? The internet then just brought this in because people realized, well, you don't have to queue up there. You don't have to wait around. You don't have to have an office that you're waiting and going to queue to send money. You can do it online. So when Western Union and MoneyGram went online, fintechs like us came in. We're like, wait a minute, we can do this ourselves. So that's why you have a lot of fintechs going in and trying to go in and step in and actually do a bit more. So what they did then is you can go ahead, instead of sending your passport and going with your ID and going in with the passphrase, what you could have done then is you could just do everything from your phone. So you could just go in, start, boop, send everything, do your KYC, do your Face ID, and you can send money in an instant. So you can still see the ads these days, right? So if you go online, there's always, oh, send money for cheaper, send this, send that, And then there's crypto, which is coming as well. Crypto, I'm not going to say it's gone wrong because it's still fairly new, but I think that there's a lot to do there. So we'll see. Watch that space. I think we might do something there as well in terms of, but when I say crypto, I don't mean these funny coins. What I mean is actually USDC, USDT, stable coins. Because stable coins, I just said USDC, USDT. Those are the first things that come to mind. Those things come to mind. Guess what? That means you can then go in and you can have access to the dollar. Because I talked about the corridors at the start, right? So if you have money and you want to send money home to Nigeria, for instance, and you're in another African country, you can't send money between Africa. So what you do is you have to send money to the dollar and then the dollar sends it back. But if you have USDC or USDT, then you have access to the dollar and it's cheaper and it's instant, especially if you're sending on the Saturday. It's cheaper, right? So that's where where crypto would come in and help, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, it's still fairly new. I don't think we should run into it. No one should run into crypto unless you know what you're doing and you're very sure, or you're sure of the party who's the middleman in this case. But the point I'm trying to make there is the fact that people send a lot of money home. And in terms of numbers, I think I talked about it at the start. So we're looking at roughly 860 billion. Of that 860 billion, 85 billion comes from the US. And who are the people sending it? The usual guys, right? So it's definitely Africans, a lot of Africans, a lot of Asians. In terms of Africa, the current locations, the top ones basically are always Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and a few other Western, again, top countries, Egypt, Morocco, right? So a lot of African countries. Then going into Asia, we have top dogs, India. India have the highest numbers in terms of, I think they're looking at roughly 35 billion that they send home per annum. 29 billion is what they send home to every year from the European countries back to India. I talked about the UAE. UAE is number 3. They're number 3 because the Indians, they send money back home. Indians, Filipinos, and Chinese are the top 3 countries that send money from the UAE back. So it's a bulging business, and it's one that's always going to be needed, okay? But to me, I think where things are starting to go wrong, where things will go wrong, and where things will continue to go wrong would be when fintechs get in. It's unfortunate, right? Because I'll tell you what, so I'm again, as an immigrant, right? You go in, you want to help send money back home, right? No matter where you are. So if you're a Filipino, you've done well, we've gone into Harvard, you've started a new company and you're doing things well. The first thing that comes to your mind, obviously, is to give back to the state you're in. So if you're in the US, you give back to the US, you're paying your taxes, you're doing everything well. The next thing that comes to mind, believe it or not, is to do something back home. So what you do then is you create and do something for the Filipinos. You do something with your parents, clearly help your parents out, unlike the guys in Europe. So you help your parents back home, you help your families, your uncles here and there, okay? You do all that. But here's where things get interesting. Well, it's not really about the cash, because what happens then is people realize that and they try to manipulate that, right? So what's happened now is a lot of fintechs have gone into that space. And what the fintechs do then, they go in and they try and give a smaller margin. So remember at the start, you had, I think Western Union used to charge 10%, up to 10%, right? Now, what happens now with the fintechs charge 2%, 3%, which is cheaper to send money home. So people see that they run towards that, right? And everyone wants to start a fintech. So if you go online now and search remittance app or sending money home, one whole page will be full of apps, different apps today that are sending money home, right? So to me, that's proliferated the market. Right? That's a problem. If you have too many options, it's a problem. It's good for the customer, but it's the same solution over and over again, because now at this point, everyone is fighting for the cheapest margin, which reduces service. That's the downside. So at the start, Western Union, you could go to Western Union, you were not getting duped, you get your money. The only thing things went wrong in Western Union those days, or MoneyGram, was KYC. So if you're sending money and they're not sure if you're being scammed, or they're not sure if you have a relation with who you're sending money to, the money gets blocked, okay? And then they try and open you up. But the failure rate was very, very low, right? Now compare that now to what we have today with every fintech sending money home. So if you start a remittance business and you go into YC is Silicon Valley app, Silicon Valley accelerator that helps people start a business. If you have a fintech app and you see you're sending money home, they're going to take you. So what that means then is you have a lot of money, a lot of apps that are remittance, or everything is a remittance business these days, which is a problem, I said, because what happens then is you don't know who to trust, number one. Number two, and more importantly, it's the same service over and over again, right? Because no one's asking the customer what they want, okay? And again, I'm not trying to plug, people we work with here, right? But there's an app called diasporacheck.com. So check it out, check it out. Diasporacheck.com. Diaspora, CHEK, check.com. So what they do, right, is not remittance, but what they do is actually give food to who you're sending money to. So if you were going to send money, for instance, to your parents back home in India, do your parents who are 80, 85 really care about the money, or they care about food and drugs, right? So they always care about food, drug, medication, right? Help. So that's my point now. So people have found it easy to go online and create an app, but no one's actually worrying about the people behind it. And that's where remittance businesses are failing. Because Western Union did a good job, okay? They came back 5%, 10%, okay? But if you're sending money home, right? I don't know. Again, maybe I'm not going to say I'm rich, but maybe I'm too on the upper hand to worry about small margins, okay? Like if I was going to send $100 home, I want to send $100 home, that's it, okay? Done. And then if for some reason Western Union takes $10 and I send $90 home, as long as my dad gets the money, my mom then, as long as my mom and dad gets the money, I don't care. It's $90, done. However, fintechs have come in and said, okay, we're going to give 95. Okay, we're going to give 96, 97. Okay, that's fine. But here, my dad is now 85, 86. He doesn't care about the money anymore. So when I send him money, the worry is not the money. The worry is how to get him the supplies that he needs. And that's where fintechs are failing. That's where we need more people going into that. So hopefully this video helps there. Check out diasporacheck.com, and I hope other companies do that, right? Because now we need people to do the work. We need less people to just send money home and click send, because that's easy. The algos are easy to create. You can go in and create a corridor that goes from here to Kenya, or Kenya to Nigeria, Nigeria to Namibia, the whole lot. You can do across Africa, not a problem. But what matters is getting food and drugs to these old people that need it, your family, right? And seeing pictures as well. Because yes, you can send it home, but how do you know they're getting it? To me, that's the important thing. That's what people care about. The poor guy working shifts in the hotel, cleaning, and making sure everything is nice in the hotel. They want to make sure that their dad and moms are safe. So they do that. They're helping the society where they are. They also want to help society back home. We started a solar charging unit again. I'm just talking. I'm going to stop now, guys. We started a solar charging unit, right? It's called Niger. I think it's nigercharge.com, right? And what it does, it actually does like solar charging with solar panels, right? So you, instead of charging with generators, we use solar units to charge. I kid you not, right? The amount of people that wanted to be involved in that was crazy. A lot of people are like, yes, we want to do something back home, because there's infrastructure there, right? It's not really about, giving money back or cash. Now you're doing infrastructure, because people now rely less on generators. They rely less on worrying about powers. You can just put a solar unit somewhere and you're taking care of the village, which is crazy. So by the way, check that out, nigercharge.com. And then, so what's happened? A lot of people are like, yes, let's do it. Let's go for it, right? So that shows you, right? And it's not a digression, but it shows you what people care about. So in Europe, in all these countries I just talked about, USA, Europe, China, UAE, what people care about is infrastructure, food, sending food back home. Yeah, sending infrastructure back home, solar charging units, solar panels, green energy. I told you we started that app again. I've got my own app, that does payments. Okay, and the payments doesn't get as much attention as the solar charging units that we can just dump in a village, and everyone in the village has light, because that unit then provides charging unit for your phones, provides light at night because it's solar, right? And then it provides a small business as well for those people. Again, they don't make a lot of money, and we're losing money on those units, by the way. We lose money on it because we use it for adverts on our rings. It's business. But what that does then, it shows what people care about. So a lot of people, especially Africans, Asians, again, these are guys in India, China, the whole lot. They care about giving something back to the society. Yeah. And we see that a lot happening today as well, even with Israel. Israel, they do that a lot. They always send money back home to Israel. Like they look at it as that's their home, right? It's the same thing with Africans as well, and Asians and everyone. People want to do, Europe is doing so well. USA is doing well. Okay. Everyone knows that, right? And people give back. They do their taxes very well and they're well structured. But those villages are not, And to me, I think that's where, I'm going to summarize with that. That's where remittance businesses go wrong. Okay, they've taken the easy part. They focus on just transfer. That's easy. Yeah, you can just click a button, transfer, done. Oh, and then they're going to charge you 1%. Okay, or they charge you 1.5%. Okay, even 2%. Okay, what I mean? Like we don't care. I don't care specifically. I don't care about the small margins as much as I care about cash getting used. I care about that money. If someone came to me and said, we're going to charge 5% more for me to take that money and buy food and cook for your dad at home, and he's going to have 4 square meals, I'll do it. In fact, I do it now. So I'll go out. I could go to McDonald's to eat, right? Me and you, we could go to McDonald's to eat, but we don't. What are we going to do? We're going to go to a fine restaurant where we pay more just to get that experience. It's the same to remittance as well. So remittance is good to save money, But it's better if you can provide service. I'm gonna stop there and go back to my tea and chicken. Again, guys, catch up. Check out the websites. I think I'll put them on this video. Check them out. NigerCharge.com for solar units. What's your diaspora check for again looking after your loved ones specifically, not just about money, but about sending food, drugs back home. And then lastly, then is Oroka.com. Take care and see you in the next one.